Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we got more SSOU sample teams. We got 6 teams. 5 of them are fresh teams that have not been previously featured in the sample teams. And then there's also the rain team that we carried over from the last session of the sample teams. This is going to be a bit of an informal video as I've been having some connectivity issues and there's loud sounds coming from my basement right now. So I'm sorry if any of the sound quality isn't great. And I'm also sorry if I can't go in depth as much as I normally will, but I'm going to try and give you guys the essence of all of these teams as well as why I think they're good picks in the metagame. And then, as normal, I hope you guys try them out. You guys let me know your thoughts about them below, and we can, kind of just get this metagame going. There are a lot of fun things to use right now. I feel like it's more offensive than ever. If you look at these teams here, you see multiple bulky offenses, and even the balances, if you look at them, they're heavy on pivoting into breakers. For example, let's look at the balance teams by Jordy and myself. First and foremost, Jordy's balance team there, it has Pivot Zero Aura, Pivot Slowking, Pivot Lander's T, Pivot Corviknight, and the Heatran's a breaker. It's a taunt, a 3 attack set. On my team, we have Specs Dragapult plus Mixed Hydreigon, but we also have pivoting on the Dragapult with U-Turn, Volt Switch Zapdos, U-Turn Lander's T, and there's also a taunt Heatran set. So the point is that you never actually let up momentum besides when you have Clefable in on these teams, and Clefable is able to really actually kind of generate momentum for other things in the sense that it's, clicking knockoff or Thunderwave, or it's setting up sweeps, and you can really use that to bolster your positioning for those momentum-oriented Pokemon. So, in a sense, you have bulky offenses that are meant to deal out damage but also take it in return. And then you have balance teams, but the balance teams are actually meant to just always keep the upper hand, and they actually play a bit more quicker, a bit more proactively than old meta balances, which is just switching between your Tox Specs and your Clefable for 100 turns. These games on average, all of a sudden, are going from, say, 50 to 75 turns to 30 to 40 turns. And I quite like that pace of play, not only because it allows you to get in more games, and I'd rather play 10 games a night than 8 games a night, or I'd rather, play 50 games over a weekend on the ladder and just grind up an alt than, have to do that over the stretch of a whole week. And I think that's really fun. But yeah, admittedly, I think that this batch of teams is pretty solid, but I wish we had 1 or 2 more. I've been struggling to build a bit lately because I just haven't had the time between SPL and YouTube and real life work. So I was only going to give 1 team here when normally I give 2 or 3, but we have a great cast of teams from others, and I'm going to go through all of them first, and I've briefly touched on the balance versus bulky offense dynamic. So first off, there is the Power Herb Heatran plus Choice Band Rillaboom bulky offense by Bea, or Beautiful, really? I don't know what I guess, the thing is that Beautiful's nickname used to be Bea, so, I'm not really sure how he wants it pronounced. But instead of emphasizing and stressing over the pronunciation of their name, let's go into the team here. So the team functions with Choice Banded Rillaboom opening up grassy terrain for Power Herb Solar Beam Heatran, which can take advantage of the grassy terrain and get one-shots on things like, say, Slowbro and Slowking, potentially even after Magma Storm. Also, even if you run into things like Tapu Fini, which can reset terrain, Solar Beam's still doing a ton of them, killing after Magma Storm or Earth Power. And yeah, Gastrodon, even if Powdon, are not going to want to take that either. It just opens up the door quite a bit for you to really go off, if you will. And I quite like that dynamic of this team. With the bulky waters gone, all of a sudden Lander's T, Dragapult, and Assault Vest Bisharp, which is a sneaky good Dragapult check of our own, are really going to thrive in this matchup. I do admit that I don't love the team's matchup against an accurate Tornado Starion with Focus Blast. Now again, it has to hit a couple Focus Blasts, and even a couple Hurricanes potentially, but in the long term that can be a tad problematic, but that aside, I think this is a pretty solid team from Bea. It was also featured on the Smogon's social media as the team of the week last week for this month for OU, so it's pretty cool there. But yeah, I think if you want to use a momentum-oriented team with a cool Heatran set with Solar Beam and Power Herb, I definitely advise trying this out, but there are also some other options here. One of them is built by a channel favorite and a good friend of mine, Ox to Fox. Ox is a really good conceptual builder. He finds cool things in the metagame and he takes advantage of them to the fullest of his abilities. And admittedly, this is a great example of that. He's got Heatran here, which is cool with Magnezone, because you're able to kind of trap some steel types that could maybe deter you from clicking Freeze or Ice Beam. But also Magnezone synergizes super well with Landorus T, as Corviknight and Skarmory can be problematic, and Kartana, same deal there. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, this team actually plays off each other really well. Admittedly, I don't love how it matched up with opposing Kyurem. You rely a lot on Slowking Galar for that, but aside from that, I think it's a really strong team. It has some surprising sets as well, And I think Choice Band Cardano is super strong. I'm not going to spoil all of the surprise factor for you because A, I'm not going to be going through every little last detail of these teams, as I said before. And B, I think it'd be cool, kind of like opening presents on Christmas Day when just unwrapping new teams, trying them out by some of your favorite builders. That's always how I used to view sample teams when I was a newer player, and I definitely feel that way still to this day. So I'm glad that I'm able to contribute this to the community and connect with these players. Ox was willing to give this. It's also part of the OU sample teams that she runs, and Ox is an amazing contributor here and someone that I'm really glad is involved nowadays as well. Next off is Neon, an OU moderator. He's a bit more soft-spoken, but do not let that confuse you for incompetence or not being familiar, as he's actually super knowledgeable at the metagame and a great contributor to the community. He built a hyper-offensive team with these Pokemon here. Admittedly, it's kind of generic hyper-offense, but it's a really solid team at that. Using Dragon Dance, Dragonite with screens, it's really hard to take out. You can clean sweep a lot of teams. Even if you're on something like Clefable, you can actually 1v1 it if you get a Dragon Dance and switch and light screens up. Plus 2 dual Wing Beat is always going to be taking out the physical defensive variant, and plus 1 is going to 2 KO the special defensive variants, and you can't even 2 KO with Moonblast and the Moonblast with screen ups. In fact, you might not even 3 KO depending on rolls, so it's really cool to see that. And Boost plus multi-scale can be really ridiculous as well. And Earthquake's great coverage, covering things like Heatran, Toxapex, Tapu Koko, Zero Aura, etc. All in all, I really love that Dragonite set, but also there's more. If that's not enough for you, you got Bully Drum Azumarill and Hawlucha under Electric Drain, which goes such a long way towards potentially slipping through teams. I quite like this team composition because of that. There's also Garchomp, which is of course a channel favorite, so that's cool. But yeah, I think this one's pretty slick. I definitely advise trying it out. Next off, we have a team built by Jordy. So many players probably know about. He does a lot of work for National Dex and OU as well. One of the more tenured contributors, and I really love his stuff. He's a good builder. He actually has his SPL debuts this week, so be sure to check that out and root for him. I'm going to try and bring him to the channel. If it's a good game, I'm really hoping to do it as well. So I'm mad excited for that. That's my man right there. But anyway, Heatran, Zero Aura, Corviknight, Slowking, Lender's Clefable. It does look pretty standard at the surface, but it's got some nice sets. We got Flash Cannon, Taunt, Heatran, a nice 3 attacker set, another offensive Heatran sighting. I just think it's pretty cool that we had to have more ability to run offensive Heatran with things like Magearna being gone now. I think that opens it up a ton. It suddenly becomes a premier breaker. Magma Storm plus Taunt is such a hard combination to play around, so I quite like that. But yeah, on top of that, there's also Zero Aura, which is, in my opinion, is a really underrated breaker, late game, kind of cleaner. You get some damage on Landorus T with things like Knockoff, Toxic, etc. And all of a sudden, it's such a menace if you don't have a Grass type as well in late game. It's also a good revenge color to things like Tornadus Therian, and I really enjoy that quality about it as well. So all in all, I think Zero Aura is phenomenal. Corviknight is there as well. My main issue with Corviknight right now is that an occasional Magnezone can really turn like good matchups into lopsided matchups, because you rely on it for things like Rillaboom and Kartana and so on and so forth, Landorus T. But this team kind of has secondary checks to those things, and also it works really well when you're not facing that. It's obviously a great pivot and a reliable defogger, so I think it's a really good addition to this team. Slowking's a great future sight pivot. It suddenly makes Zero Aura really threatening. Imagine getting a knockoff plus future sight into Landorus T or a Tangrowth, for example. All of a sudden they're super weak. Next time you could be super threatening, and I really think that's an underrated quality of Zero Aura in this metagame. So yeah, Landorus T, of course, is going to be there as well. But on this team, it's a bit of a surprising set. It's actually a sub-Swords Dance set. And that's really cool because you can take advantage of opposing Landorus T with knockoff or toxic. They can't break your sub, set up on them, get a ton of damage on them, and all of a sudden, Zero Aura is going to absolutely demolish them late game. Admittedly, I don't love how the team matches up with things like Tangrowth, which can potentially hard stop both, or random Buzzwole, but those Pokemon are far less common than they once were. And Clefable rounding out the team, of course, is a solid piece of utility as well, so no doubt about that. Finally, there's my team. My team's working off a concept we actually showcased on the channel of Life Orb, Superpower, Flash Cannon, Hydreigon plus Choice Mix Dragapult. I feel like that Hydreigon set, especially with Magearna gone, is pretty effective in the metagame, and it's a great lure for typical Dragon answers. You superpower the Heatran or the Ferrothorn, you Flash Cannon the Clefable, etc. And then all of a sudden, Choice Mix Dragapult can absolutely demolish them, so I think that's really cool. In addition, there's also a Pivot Zapdos and a Pivot Landorus T to get rocks up or get defog off, depending on what you're going with, and also generate momentum for the 2 dragon types. We also have a utility Clefable with Thunderbolt and Thunderwave and Knockoff. This really sets things up like Dragapult It's actually a Specs Hex Dragon Bolt, so between Toxic Lander's T, Thunder Wave from the Clef, and potential Lava Plume Burns from the Heatran, all of a sudden, if you get status on the right things like the Fable, Hex is going to go absolutely bonkers. And then also we've got a nice Taunt Heatran that I really love as well. It's just a pretty solid team. It's not perfect by any means, but I like it. You got Specially Defensive Clef for Kyurem and for Dragapult. But yeah, no, I think it's a good team. And finally, the same rain team from Ozma. If you guys want to know more about that, it's Specs, Coco, it's Stealth Rock, I think 3 attack, Seismitoad, Standard Pharaoh, we got Choice Pen Barraskewda, Nasty Plot, T, and just standard Damp Rock Pelipper. It's a solid team. I covered it on the last sample team video. Again, it's carryover from last time, but yeah, I quite like all 6 of these teams. I know this isn't the most in-depth analysis of them, but try them out. Let me know your favorite down below, and let me know what you guys want to see throughout the rest of this week. I'm admittedly a little low on ideas. I'm waiting towards a later week when I have more time to get out some top 10 list videos. So I think those are big hits in the channel. So stay tuned for that. Be it 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks from now. I'm not quite sure yet. But yeah, until then, I'm going to keep trying to pump some content. Maybe get some OU lives or an NU live on the horizon as we're in the middle of a suspect for Cresselia. So yeah, stay tuned. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And hope you all have a great day. Okay, bye.